Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Communism is so often described as an ideology or a belief that exists somewhere other than in the United States. Let me ask you, sir, just how serious a threat to our national security are these communist subversive activities in the United States today?
Well, I think they're serious. I think it's a matter that we should continue to give great care and attention to. We should support the laws which the United States has passed in order to protect us from those who would destroy us from within. We should sustain the Department of Justice in its efforts and the FBI, and we should be continually alert. I think if the United States is maintaining a strong society here in the United States, I think that we can meet any internal threat. The major threat is external and will continue.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion.
Welcome back. 250 years. We we thought that that post was, by the way, from a couple days ago that Donald Trump posted. And the late president addressed the monolithic conspiracy that uses subversion instead of elections. And we used to think that it was happening overseas first, and it wasn't. That they had to get it right overseas first. We see what happens in Europe, what happened in the UK, what happened in France, what happened in Spain. And here we are on the heels of the 250th anniversary for the United States, a declaration of independence from Britain. And we're so close to losing it all. Now, the Roman Empire and the Ottoman Empire, and you could look at all the empires that happened. You could argue that the United States has been an empire for well over 100 years, a powerhouse. But you could also argue that when you have something this powerful, this massive, everyone's going to want to take it from you. And of course, they want to tell us that we seek violence, and that somewhere along the line that violence is going to be the thing that we should run away from. And I talk about the fact that it's going to take force, and you have these same forces that have said that, Joe, you can't talk that way. That's dangerous. I was just told a couple days ago that I'm political kryptonite. And I would argue that my entire life, from the time that I was a small child to today, I have had to fight for everything that I have. There was no silver spoon. There was no opportunistic roadmap for me. There was God's gifts that he gave me. And then there was the helping hand along the way that recognized my talent and ability. It was the American dream. It was what people used to look for. They used to look for people who were super talented. So for the 4th of July, I wanted to do a show that brought in some of the people that are out there trying to save our country, that understand this opportunity, this American dream. And I should have paid better attention over the last 30 years. I probably should have used my talents to stay in the Middle East and Africa when I was started there. But I had to watch my children grow up, and I had to make sure they were secure first. And now here I am. I thought I was out of the fray. I could step away from it, and I find myself right back in the middle of it, saying the quiet part out loud and what most people won't say. As they say things like, Joe, he's just a loose cannon. I'm not a loose cannon. Everything that I do is very calculated. It's calculated. And over the last 6 years, I've learned that many of the people that say they're on our side are just not. And that President Trump is facing one of the most dire environments that a human being could face. And I know because it's easy to see it when you've seen it. So I don't have a lot of time with Mark Cook. He's been on the road. He's been all over the place. He spoke at the Freedom Fest. And I just want to bring him in. So let's just bring Mark Cook in. Mark, welcome to the show. I just want to.
I'm trying to figure computers out, Joe. Okay.
Mark is he's a real
I'm almost
computer
there.
guy. Yeah. Mark, this will be one of the few
I mastered the mute button today.
With a tie.
Yeah. So you can rip it off?
No, I've always said that I'm never going to wear anything that they can hang me by, but today I made the exception. How you doing, Mark?
Doing all right. It's been a long, 6 years now?
It has been.
And we're still struggling to fight for the freedom of our nation. And it all comes down to elections. Really, the whole thing.
It all comes down to elections. We saw much of what we're talking about right now transpire in Colorado. It continues. The Kabuki Theater continues, even as we're sitting here speaking right now. But President Trump knows.
Absolutely, he knows. Now, the question is, how much power does he have? How bold is he willing to be? But what we have here is we have the tipping point of this nation. Right now, at 250 years, the actions of a few brave people are going to pave the future for this next 250 years, whether we're going to have another 250 years of liberty or whether we're going to have 250 years of tyranny.
My biggest fear is that people, most people in their heart want peace, right? Most people in their heart want to love other people around them. I'd say that's 95% of the people, and 5% are they want to subvert things. They want to lie. They want to cheat. They want to do whatever they can to win. Unfortunately, we have that on both sides of the aisle. It's not just exclusive to the left.
No, it has nothing to do with sides of the aisle at all. There's evil, there's criminals, and I think it's far less than 5% actually. But they are the ones that are bold and loud, and they are the ones that are calculating and intent on destroying all that is good. And so if that 2% or 1% or less is far more active than the 99+%, then that 1% ends up taking over. If we get active, even a little bit, enough people get a little bit active, we save the whole thing. Evil prevails when good men do nothing. And we have far too many good men and women not doing enough to just reclaim their elections. That's it. We get our elections back if we, the people, count our own dots and we ensure that only eligible voters are part of that tabulation, that votes are only made up of eligible voters, and we count the votes accurately, then we have 90+% of our liberty immediately restored in one election. That's all it takes. And the next election, we hit another huge portion of that. And in a very short period of time, a year or two, we have most of our nation back. And then the evil that has been stomping all over our heads won't have any power any longer, because that is their easy button. Corrupted elections, manipulatable elections is the easy button for these criminals. And they love it. That's why they don't want to give it up. Because otherwise, they've got to revert back to their old school methods, which is bribery, blackmail, and threats. And that's a lot more difficult for them. It takes them more energy.
Well, you talk about, I think they're doing both. You still have the bribery, the threats, and the, I mean, they're basically running every pathway known to man right now. They're speeding up the pathway. But
the elections are the easy button. Literally, they don't have to blackmail, bribe, or threaten anyone. All they have to do is get someone on the ballot, fix the election for them. Boom, they're in. That's it. And that's why they love this system. And it spent decades building it. And they're pissed that the citizens started noticing what they did. They're pissed that we woke up and started opening our eyes in 2020. And they've done everything possible to keep us all in the dark. They've done everything possible to make sure that all the rest of the citizens, outside of our fairly small but growing group of people that know elections are BS, they want to keep everyone convinced everything is fine. Nothing to see here. Just go fill out your little ballots, fill out your little piece of paper, drop it in here. We'll tell you what the results are. And then when that's done, they're going to say, here, just, vote on this little thing. Go press your button. It's so convenient. You just press here. We'll give you instant results. It doesn't matter whether they're accurate or not, but they'll be instant. And then you're good. And at that point, literally just, why are we bothering? Just tell us who won. Let's just save the time entirely. No one has to go out and do anything. Just tell us who our new leaders are. That's it. And we're at that point. Basically, people just don't realize it yet. So,
well, you see Spanberger in Virginia that won by 0.8%. You see this 50-50 deal or 66-33 deal that's happened. It's programmed, and you can see what happened with. You can see what happened specifically with Spencer Pratt. I mean, you saw, the great thing about this is that it basically showed us what PID controllers are doing. It showed us how they were controlling a fixed point outcome, because you can't actually control two outcomes at the same time. So you had what's her name? Karen Bass, whose numbers, they basically leveled off and stayed the same. You had Spencer Pratt, leveled off, stayed the same. They both got there using those PID controllers, right? But then all of a sudden you have Ramon that came in, that was almost like 80%, 70% of the votes were to her until it actually passed Spencer Pratt. It was not only unlikely, it was impossible. It was an impossible outcome.
It was almost like someone was forcing people to see it. And a lot of people did see it for the first time. I had someone call me on election day crying, that had been exposed to all of the election fraud claims for years. Called me crying saying, oh my gosh, it's actually true, isn't it? Literally, they'd heard it over and over and over again for 6 years. They still didn't believe it until they saw it with their own eyes. Once they saw it with their own eyes, it finally hit them. And it hit them so hard, they burst into tears.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got to get to the place now where we're 250 years. It's pretty, it's amazing that it's happening. It's all culminating, climaxing on this 250-year anniversary. But there's some serious problems. And I want to bring up one of those problems to you if I can. Then I'm going to place a couple videos for you. Yesterday, it was exposed that there was a man named Jeremy Lewin. And Jeremy Lewin was a huge Joe Biden supporter. And President Trump doesn't have the time to figure out who's going to be, assistant to the White House, deputy assistant to the president, senior staff for anything. I mean, he's not making. Basically, they give him a list and they're like, "Here's the people that we think you should do." And here's the history behind them. But this individual, Jeremy Lewin, just was pushed and moved to the White House as Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Western Hemisphere Affairs at the NSC. He's been serving as Acting Undersecretary of State for Foreign Assistance, Humanitarian Affairs, and Religious Freedoms, leading the administration's overhaul of U.S. foreign aid. So this guy is directly related to Marco Rubio, which, you know, I like Marco Rubio. I like the things that he's been doing in the United States. I hate the fact that he's stayed away from elections, hasn't talked about them at all. And some of the work that he's done down in South and Central America, I find reprehensible, because it's actually promoting in places like Guatemala this radical agenda and these stolen elections that are down there as well. So it almost feels like we're doing this balancing act with Rubio that, hey, I'm going to do some good. I'm going to, on the surface, these are some of the things we're doing. I'm a hardline guy. When behind the scenes, we're getting promoted by people like this Jeremy Lewin person, who, by the way, he's an elitist, right? He went to Ivy League schools. He went to Harvard Law School. He professed himself as part of the Federalist Society to label himself Team Joe in the 2020 presidential election, and is directly tied to Lawrence Tribe, who advised congressional Democrats on how to impeach President Trump. How does this guy get into the inner circle of President Trump with the background that he has? That the internet sleuths had to go find.
It's a good question. I wish I had access to be able to understand what's going on the inside there. I don't. And I don't know if it's captured. I don't know what's going on up there. All I do know is the citizens in the counties need to take back their elections. It's that simple. No matter what happens up top, nothing up there is going to save us at this point. Even if there's an order from up top, if it happens to happen, and it might, I hope it does. But that's not going to be enough unless we're ready on the ground to make it happen. And ultimately, if that fails, it's only us anyway. So for all these people sitting back saying, oh, I'm just waiting for something to happen, I think that's a fool's move. I think people need to be active right now. Assume nothing's happening, because it's very likely not. I hate to be the bearer of possible realistic news, but assume nothing's happening. Do what needs to be done in your counties to reclaim your elections, because that's all we have. And it's all in the citizens' hands.
You know, there was a movie that just came out that said it was Citizen Vigilante. Did you get a chance to watch that movie?
No.
We talked about it a few days ago with Father Mahana. And I have to tell you, if you get a chance to watch it, it is on Amazon. It's $5.99. It's the best $5.99 that you have. I'm not going to play that clip right now, but I do want to play this clip, because you said something. You said, Joe, just act like nothing is happening. Assume that nothing is happening. But President Trump had a message and delivered that message to Tina. Let's go ahead and play it.
President Trump called me and I said, Mr. President, I said, I feel discouraged. I said, because after 5 years, and I wore this at the symposium 5 years ago. After 5 years, I'm seeing Ngami get elected. I'm seeing Spanberger get elected. I'm seeing what's going on out in California and Texas, all over. And, but they're working. They are working. It may not be on our time frame, but they're working. Just know that.
Mark, President Trump came out like a bear in a china closet in January of 2025. He hit the ground running. He filed more executive orders and undid some of the damage that was done by Joe Biden in a very short period of time. Here we are over 2 years later, sitting here wondering how that ship slowed down. And as fast as it got going, it slowed down as if it had run out of gas in the first 10 seconds of the administration. Now we're 2 years in. We've gone to war with Iran. We still don't have a solution for Ukraine. Every response seems to be, it's Russia and China. It's Russia and China. And more importantly, that's the same words that are used by other leaders around the world. It's as if Russia and China are while they're subverting the the election systems and doing the things they are in the United States. Still, Spamberger, you see Spamberger, you see Mamdani, you see what's going on in Texas, Virginia, California. It's as if their train never stopped and ours is literally sitting at the train depot waiting for a leader to move the train again.
And maybe it's strategic and maybe it's not. I don't know. So I'm going to control what I can control and do the best that I can. It is going to come down to the citizens. If the citizens do the work, do what's necessary to reclaim their elections, and someone else is working on something else, then great. Those parallel tracks,
come on, Mark,
will just fine together.
Mark, what does that look like? Like you and I, we've never danced around the bush, sniffed ass. We've never done any of that stuff, right? What does it look like? What does it look like for the people to do something? Because protesting isn't working. And say what you want about Jake Lang, but they locked the guy up for $1 million bail, right? For speaking the truth while people were screaming at him that they would kill him if the cops weren't there, right? What's it really going to come down to? Am I so off base in saying that it's going to take force to push these guys out?
I don't think it's going to take force. I think there's plenty we can do before force. That's what I'm doing,
Okay.
If I just figured we'll just wait until there's force, I would just let it get so bad that people are left with only that option.
Well,
but if people would wake up and start educating each other and showing up, how about showing up at commissioner meetings? Still to this day, 6 years later, I ask people, how full is the room in your commissioner meetings? They say, maybe 1 or 2 people are in there. Still to this day, like a week ago, they can't even find enough American citizens to show up at a commissioner's meeting to demand going to hand count paper ballots on election day at the precinct, counted where cast with precinct level results. They still won't do that to this day. So how the hell are we going to get anywhere if citizens want to get off their ass enough to do it? They did in the beginning, right? They'll show up to a meeting or two and then that's it. No stamina. This is ridiculous. People need to get off their ass. That's step one. If they aren't even willing to do that, I got to tell you, I don't think people deserve the freedom that they enjoy if they're not willing to get off their ass and show up to a damn meeting. I don't want to hear I got a soccer game to go to. I got a vacation to go to. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about your children, your grandchildren, and everyone else in this country. Because all of this happens because of what we do. And if we don't do anything, then the people that do want to do something will have the control.
All right, Mark.
Let me. We have no one to blame but ourselves.
Let me go through history for you, though. All right, let's go through history. We went into World War II. We didn't drop teddy bears, right? We went into Iran. Over 1 million people died. We destroyed entire critical infrastructure. We go into other countries. We went into Iraq. We went into Afghanistan. We were there to fight what?
Repression.
We're there to fight evil, right? I mean, that's what we're told. We're there to fight evil. Is that what we were told? We're fighting a regime that basically was murdering their own people.
Doorstep.
But I mean,
look, this
problem with me. Look, I know everyone is conditioned to talk about the fact that force is violence. It's not. Force is not violence. Force can become violence, but force is not violence. People are discouraged, not by the left, Mark. They're discouraged by the people that say that they have our backs, that are inside of positions of trust and authority, that are in leadership, that say, you know what? It's complicated. John Thune, the SAVE Act, can't get it done.
Bullshit.
Michael Johnson, hey, we got to pass all these bills. You know what? It's complicated. You guys don't understand. You're not in Congress. You don't understand what's going on for real.
We'll make it real simple. We'll take care of it ourselves in our counties.
Mark.
If they can't get it done, we have no choice but to do it for them.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I wanted to have you on because of 250 years, the people are tired. They can't show up to. I'm going to advocate for the American people right now. I haven't been to a commissioner's meeting either in the last 6 months. You want to know why? I don't have time. Lawfare consumes my life. Right? I got.
You are busy. You're a busy guy, but I'll tell you what. There's a whole lot of people. Some of them probably watching right now that absolutely could make the time if they wanted to and haven't.
Okay.
Period.
I'm
going to bust my ass to do everything I can, but those out there that are not busting their asses as well, if we fail, it's your fault, and I'll keep track of every one of you.
Well, if we're keeping track of them, why can't we keep track of why can't we keep track of the bad people, Mark?
Evil's evil. I already got. They're already tracked. Right? Evil prevails when good men do nothing. So all the good men that are doing nothing, this is your fault.
So, by the way, this is the Mark I like. Me and Mark have sat down and had some like loud conversations. And Mark, I always come back to the same thing, right? We have to, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. But we also have to have the leaders that are willing to go through the steps where they don't just talk, they actually commit and get things across the finish line. There's lots of things that can be done.
Yeah, but those leaders can be any one of us, Joe. Any single person can stand up and be a leader.
I do.
The problem is
I stand up. You stand up.
Other people that are supposed leaders to stand up. You stood up. I stood up. Right? We got people that have stood up, but we need more people standing up next to us.
Okay, so let's talk about standing up for a minute. You have Lauren Boebert that goes on TV. The state GOP has, and this is in Colorado, your own state. The state GOP, and this is what I talk about. This is just another example of the fact that you get subverted. And by the way, your talk, by the way, at the Freedom Fest was fantastic. You had people that called me that said, Joe, same as you, but they called me and said, you were right. Like I watched, first time I ever watched it, these people thought I was crazy. One was my neighbor. He's like, look, the elections are fine, Joe. And I was like, no, they're not. He's like, I'm going to the Freedom Fest. I was like, good for you. Make sure you listen to Mark Cook. So he sat there, he took notes, he called me, and he's like, Joe, is Mark Cook for real? I was like, did you watch the whole thing? He goes, yeah. He goes, I don't know how to feel right now. So part of it is you have to wake people up. But the other part is that we have leadership on our side who are feckless cowards. I mean, Lauren Boebert has not done us any favors, right?
But we have citizens expecting the quote-unquote leaders to do everything for them. That's our biggest problem.
So you got.
We also have a problem with this. We have citizens that don't think that they run the show. We have citizens that think they need to wait for the leaders to do something, that they have to be told by their government what to do. We own this place. This whole thing belongs to us.
All right, send it.
Them.
Send it. What do you want the couple 100,000 people that are watching this?
They're our servants. Okay.
What are they doing? What are the couple 100,000 people watching this show? What do you want them to do, Mark?
They're asleep because they don't understand that they own this place. They are complacent. That's the problem. They think that these people have authority over them. They don't.
Okay.
They have none. They are our employees.
What does that look
American
like?
People need to wake up.
What does it look like?
Take back their elections. It's real simple. You walk in there, you show up every single meeting, and if they ignore you, ignore your demands to reclaim your elections, you show up with more people the next time. They ignore you again, you show up with more people. You fill the room up, you fill the hallways up, you fill the building up, you fill the parking lot. You keep adding people until those that serve you submit to you. Period.
Mark.
Simple. It's that simple.
Mark. They show up and do what?
First, show up.
Okay.
Show up and get involved and speak your voice. Because right now that's not happening. People are not showing up and they're not speaking.
So you're trying to say that my pray, stand, speak, act is like a real thing? Pray, stand, speak.
You were right you were right on that thing. I'll give you that. I don't want your head to get too big, but yeah.
Mark, where are you headed? Where are you headed now?
I think I'm going to walk over to the White House.
Are you in D.C. right now?
Yeah, right next to the White House.
All right. So I think you should walk over to the White House because you own it. We own the White House, right?
We do own it. Absolutely.
Listen,
I might even send a friend of mine right inside that White House. I might do.
I really want to say one thing about the people and how we get the people. When President Trump was shot in the ear, he put his hand up in the air and he said 3 words. What were they?
Fight, fight, fight.
Right. And so I look at this and everyone wants to say that I want to, when we went into Iran, what did we do? Did we go in there with force or did we go in there and try to negotiate with evil?
I'm pretty sure we went in with force.
I want to just paraphrase what I think you're saying.
We don't need to go in there with force right now.
I'm going to paraphrase what you're saying. getting involved right now. So I'm talking to everyone here, birthday of 250 years of our nation. A lot of blood's been spilled over 250 years. I think one of the reasons why Mark says that we don't have to get to force right now is because you do the things that are necessary right now, and you're able to fly through discouragement. You're able to stand up and keep standing, keep standing. It's like arm wrestling. We want to be able to arm wrestle so we don't have to spill blood. It's not saying that spilling blood, and I'm just paraphrasing what I think Mark is saying, because I know for a fact that people in the comments are going to be like, that's not going to do anything. Showing up's never done anything. I can already hear the black pilling that's going to happen. So let me just tell you what Mark is saying.
People aren't showing up, though. That's the problem.
Mark is willing to give up his life. I am willing to give up my life tomorrow. Tomorrow. If somebody called me and said, Joe, we need you to give up your life so that we can preserve the next 250 years, I would walk willingly right down the line and I would give up my life. What Mark is saying, though, is in order to get to a place where we are not required to fight evil and spill blood with force, we must be willing to do the sacrificing today that will lead to success where we can take back our nation because it does belong to us. That's what Mark is saying. He's not saying that it might not be necessary, that we might not get there. He's saying that if you do your part, we'll have a much greater chance of, even if it does lead to violence, does lead to force, it'll be a flash, very quick, it'll be done, and there'll be less blood spilled in order to get us back on track. That I think is the ultimate.
If we all stand up, we automatically will win. I guarantee it. There aren't enough people standing up. That's what J6 is all about. That's what all this is all about. Because they don't want us to stand up. They want everyone to be scared. Scare them all into submission. Right? Fear-based control. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Fear is their weapon. Right? And they lose their weapon when we ignore the fear. When we have no fear, we become more powerful than them. That's their greatest weapon. And our compliance is their second greatest weapon.
Well,
right? Get rid of the fear, stop complying. We're done. We got it all. That's all we have to do. It's that simple.
I actually think that's why they attack me on both sides of the aisle. I think that the thing is I don't have any fear. That's the one reason why basically they can't stop talking about Joe did this or Joe did that or Joe did this. Like I believe, and I'm just going to say it right now, Mark, thank you for going all over the country and educating people on what's going on with our election system. That's number one. At 250 years, it's going to be the most basic thing to make people understand how they've been turned into a slave so they can know how to fight against breaking the bondage that they're put in. We have got to get to a place where we stand together. Democrat, Republican, Independent, it hardly matters. There is a small section of our society, both on the left and the right, wings of the same bird, that touch, that don't care about the people. We're a inconvenience to the self-serving nature of this political machine. So, Mark, I'll let you go so you can go to the White House. I hope you get in there and have a nice conversation. Put on a tie, by the way. It'd be if you're going to go see Mr.
Can I borrow that one?
I said that I would never wear anything that they could hang me by, and so I'm gonna keep this. Before you go, though, I want to just share this with you. Get your last thoughts on this. This is Trump talking about the SAVE Act and the Supreme Court ruling on mail-in ballots. He was asked the question, and this is how he answered. Let's play it.
Do you have any questions,
Mr. President? What do you make of the Supreme Court ruling today in regards to the mail-in ballots, and what comes next for the SAVE Act after today's ruling?
Well, because of the mail-in ballot ruling, which was a little bit surprising, gives people more time to vote illegally, let's say. But the SAVE Act is even more important, and that's the right. You have to be a citizen of our country. Okay, you have to show you're a citizen of our country, called citizenship. Voter ID by photo voter ID, and no mail-in ballots unless you're in the military, disabled, you're ill, or you're away, or even on a vacation. We're being very open about it. It's pretty easy. And we'll have honest elections. But the ruling, which a lot of people were waiting for, that was a ruling that was, I think it was very detrimental to honest elections. But it is what it is. Basically, they're keeping it a little bit the way it is now. They may have a little bit of a restriction on based on the wording.
About firing the parliamentarian.
And then you have the the very important one, the Slaughter case, which we'll talk about if you ask that question. But the parliamentarian, what were you asking about?
Yeah, have you talked with Thune about?
I feel
The
like
SAVE Act is important.
it's just a step.
It's a step, and they don't want to talk about the machines, though. Notice that, right? Everyone wants the machines because we fix the front-loaded manipulation by means of the mail-in ballots and mail-in ballot tracking and early voting. We address that and reduce that. What they'll do is they'll just cheat more in the machines, and we already know they are flipping votes as those tabulators scan them into the databases. We have the proof that that vote flipping is going on. And so we need both. I'm not saying we only need the machines. And people keep fighting over it's the ballots, it's the machines. No, it's all of the above. And the election night reporting. I'm not worried about election night reporting. We can take care of that ourselves. That's real easy. And that, of course, takes people to get off their ass and actually go get the results right from your county and add them up. So you don't just blindly trust your state adding them up. But we can do that. We got all the pieces in place to do that. But the machine, funny business, the machine shenanigans, and the mail-in ballot shenanigans, we got those. So if the SAVE Act takes care of one and we take care of the machine on the other, we've got it, and we can restore our integrity to our elections, and we can restore our republic, and we'll restore our liberty for our children and our grandchildren for another 250 years.
God bless you, Mark. I appreciate all the work that you're doing. Enjoy Washington, D.C. and my old hood. And we'll see you soon.
They're talking about you here.
They are? Yeah.
Nah.
Tina's there, I know, right? I think she is.
I think so. I ran into her a little bit ago.
Yeah. Awesome. Go do your work. It's good to see you. God bless you.
You too. Thanks.
I prepared for nothing to work out. I prepared for, in large part, I prepare for the promises that are made and the disappointments that come because those promises were never kept. I think President Trump has done amazing things over the last 2 years. I don't pretend to know knowing how far along Iran was, or even whether or not the decisions to go into Iran were tethered to Israel. I don't pretend to know that I have had a seat at that table, because I haven't. I think one of the most dangerous things that we do is that we armchair quarterback regardless of what position we're in. And obviously I have more inside information than most people do, but I don't have inside information into that. I have inside information, and when I talk about that, and I talk about what happened in Ukraine, specifically the 8-year war that they had between Russia and Ukraine that was boiling over till 2022, and some of the things that I was privy to, information privy to, that was happening in Ukraine that led me to say these words: I will stand with Russia every day and twice on Sunday before I ever stand with Ukraine. You never stand on the side of the devil, not even for a minute. Now, those words cost me my friendship for a short period of time with Max McGuire, who was my co-host for years before. Matter of fact, he ran the show and ran Things Happening at Conservative Daily. And over the last 14 years, 20 years or so, every day I wake up, I keep thinking that I've figured it all out. And then something else happens, and I find out that it really was more complicated and there was more information than I had. But I see what the media has been able to do to convince tens of millions of Americans to change their profiles to a Ukrainian flag, for the media to call people who stand against Ukraine un-American, to forgive the trespasses of the Azov battalion, which is a Nazi battalion that frankly hates everyone, diabolical group inside of the armed forces of Ukraine. They forgive the fact that there are bioweapons and bio labs all over Ukraine. That was just confirmed by Tulsi Gabbard on her way out the door. They forgive the atrocities of killing their own people or gathering up young people like they did in Ukraine and sending them to the front line to become nothing but meat in the meat grinder. They forgive the fact that Ukraine killed a journalist, Gonzalo Lira. They tortured him to death. and then said, oh, he died of natural causes. They forgive the atrocities that showed up in videos over and over and over again, while blasting Russia. And while I'm sure that Russia has its own atrocities, we also then forgive ourselves. And in 250 years, I think that's one of the things that people have held on to. I think it's one of the reasons why the left has been able to create these dog whistles, is because they play against the guilt of America doing so much better than the rest of the world, being the land of opportunity, the home of the free, the land of the brave. And so we say things like we committed atrocities against the Native Americans, that we lived in a segregated society, and we pushed blacks into their own environment. But we forgive not those things. We forgive the other things that we've done in order to push black people into a place of despair. And eugenics, coming from a person named Margaret Sanger, that made abortion a right. We were able to convince an entire generation of people that killing your baby was the answer to financial woes that come with having to raise a child. We don't want to upset the apple cart in the schools, so we allow them to groom our children. And when they come home and say, I am now a boy, or I am now a girl, we are told, because of our guilt, to embrace it. Or you're a transphobe. So we can label you if you don't accept mental illness, which it's mental illness. But this is a special type of mental illness. It's one that's created by people who groom and indoctrinate our children. But we say nothing. No matter where we look or how you are able to sort through the mess that we have in our society, it becomes very, very clear that the 10-second clip or the 20-second clip has now shaped the ideas and the intelligence of Americans. But don't worry, you're not the only ones. They've done it all over the world. The same woes and the same things that we talk about today in the United States has become a global endemic problem for like-minded, normal people. Normal meaning those that aren't subjected to some of the propaganda or can see through it, where the veil has been lifted and they can see things for what they are. That grooming children is not good. Putting politics in the school and arming them with information that, frankly, is flat out retarded, while stepping away from the basics of math and science and things that we should be teaching our children. That should be the only thing that they're taught. And if they turn into a purple dinosaur when they turn 18, God bless them. But give them an opportunity to thrive in an environment that was built for them to thrive. But the same thing is happening in Australia and in New Zealand and in the UK and Spain. But they're starting to figure something out. See, in the UK, you can rape children, rape young girls with impunity, and the judge will let you out. Well, what is happening in the United States now that mimics that completely? And by the way, if you're white in America, you're an albatross. You're an abomination. They're doing everything they can to push you into a hole. But sooner or later, you basically are cutting off the lifeline of the very thing that you want to thrive within. When you alienate any group of people, you create friction. And sooner or later, people start to wake up. We're 250 years into this experiment. There's only been 2 times in that 250 years that the United States has lived without conflict. We seem to find our way back into conflicts no matter what year, what decade, what century the country has existed. And it started out, sure, we're going to fight against the British. And the British are oppressing us, and we need to be free from the British. And we need to self-govern. And soon that became an issue with ideas in the North versus the South. And we had a civil war. And we said, all right, we need to solve some of these problems. And it was a courageous president, Abraham Lincoln, that said, no, we're going to hold this thing together. And for 250 years, people have been trying to tear this country apart. And the fibers were too closely knit. The blood that spilled was way too much. There's way too much blood spilled. It created a and armor. It stopped any sort of attack against us from the outside to take what was never theirs to take. And through that 250 years, we used the ethos of a strong, courageous, and brave nation that solved conflicts. And as we got through the Civil War, and the right side did win, we find ourselves in other conflicts. As we move into the 19th century, as we start moving into the 20th century, we can count the number of lives that were lost and the stories that were told. And stories are always told by the victors, never by those that are defeated. And if you look at what has become of these wars, is we lost the bravest among us, a culling of sorts. And what was left is a smaller group of people that can be conquered. Not just conquered in the United States, but conquered around the world. And slowly they took away the tools that would allow you to dispel or to push off tyranny. And in the United States, we're almost there. And slowly but surely, they strip you of your rights and your ability to not only defend yourself by persecuting you, but they also take away your ability to fight off the very people that are stealing what was never theirs to take inside of our own country. We have been betrayed by the very people that say they are here to help. Ronald Reagan once said that the government is not the solution, the government is the problem. Well, now I would tell you that it's not the government that is the problem. It's the people that are selected in the government in order to take from us our liberty, our freedom, our voice, making all of you slaves on this 250th anniversary of our country. That's a hard thing to say. Mark was just in here talking about where we are as a country. Where are we? What do we have today that would make our forefathers proud? They were able to preserve, protect, fight for the very thing that they bled for over 2 centuries. But it's too difficult. We'd have to step away from our gaming consoles or our television or our sporting events. We'd have to get off TikTok for just 5 minutes. We'd have to study and look at what's really going on in our communities. We'd have to lay down our swords for our neighbors and pick up our swords for those that have betrayed us. And those are hard things to talk about. It's difficult over 6 years because I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be in this fight. 6 years ago, I thought, man, I'd accomplished everything that I said I would do. I'm going to retire by the time I'm 45. I was like, this is a foregone conclusion. I'm going to do it. I had built something spectacular. And then if you have a plan, go ahead and tell God what your plan is so he can just tell you that's not the plan he has for you. And over the last 6 years, I've spent time talking to people and having to fight against the very apparatus that wants to pick and choose words that I've stated and say that is the ethos of Joe Oltmann. Kyle Clark does it quite often. And in the 6 years, the 2 hours a day, if you add up all the millions of hours that I've spoken either on a public stage or in any number of the 50 states that I flew to over the last 6 years, they settle in on a couple things. Joe's an anti-Semite who said he wants to kill his adversaries. That's it. All the hours come down to 5 clips. They get to call me a MAGA podcaster. I'm not even sure what that is. They get to say that I promote violence while they send these guys to my house to do harm to me or my family. They want to talk with tough words until I say, well, why don't you just show up and let's have the conversation face to face. Get in the middle of the street in our boxers and just duke it out. And in the middle of the last 6 years, I count the blessings that I have, but I also count the cost. I count the cost of Tina Peters going to prison. I count the cost of President Trump being shot in the ear. I count the cost of somebody hiding in the bushes on his golf course, wanting to do harm to him. I count the cost of Lee Keltner, killed by an unlicensed security guard for 9 News in Colorado, murdered in cold blood, and then dismissed as if it never happened by the very judicial apparatus which is rotted to the core. I count the cost of the Supreme Court not doing what they should have done in 2020 in Texas v. Pennsylvania. I count the costs in watching election after election be stolen, while both the left and the right, who have no courage in leadership, stand on the sidelines and say there's nothing to see here, while gaslighting the truth that is so evident and clear that a blind deaf man could see it. I count the costs of our degraded society. I count the costs of our children being indoctrinated and graduating not proficient, mostly, in anything, not math, not science, not prepared for the next level of life. I count the costs as the education apparatus, the universities, have become more of a center to radicalize a generation than to prepare them for the workforce and the opportunities that they should have be afforded being an American. I count the cost as millions of illegals come across the border and rape and murder and do harmful things to people in our community while we step over the bodies of our veterans and hand them entitlements that would make even the poorest among us thrive. I count the cost as you have radicalized Muslims that have built entire communities that suck off the tit of the American people, with men going and having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wives, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 homes, and filling out a form that says, yeah, I'm single with 8 kids. Give me more money off the Americans. I count the cost of every American paying 56 cents on every dollar to a government entity, keeping less than 50% of what they are. I count the cost of a near record high 70, 75% divorce rate in the United States because families cannot thrive. They can't stand together. They can't operate together because they're too busy just living to survive. I count the cost of a healthcare system that is so rife with corruption and so filled with the selfish desires of a few that it makes things almost unattainable. I count the cost of cancer being the one thing that they said that they were going to solve this problem. And yet there's no money in solving cancer, but there's money in death. There's money in trying to keep people alive using things that have been around for 50, 60 years. They've been studying cancer for nearly 100 years. And yet we're no closer to having a solution to the problem. And anytime there seems to get to a place where we can solve the problem, it's swept under the rug. I count the cost of the degeneracy that we have in our society that is driven by dollars and not driven by morals and ethics, which is what it should be driven by. And most of all, I count the cost of us pulling God out of our communities, out of our country, and us standing on the sideline like cowards, unable to stand up for what is right because we're so afraid of the bully pulpit might put that scarlet letter on you and send you back into your community. I count the costs. JFK counted the cost. President Trump counted the cost. But the weak, pathetic people that are in our government, many of them selected leaders on both sides of the aisle, can't do what's right by the American people. Can't do it. They can't break the filibuster because they're deathly afraid that that's what the Democrats will do. But what do the Democrats do in 4 years? We're guilted into an environment by propaganda of what it might made us look like and not what the outcome would be for the people if things like the SAVE Act were passed. We're nearly $40 trillion in debt. We have a handful of nations in the BRICS community that have depegged or are depegging from the dollar, that are building their own economy. Many of those nations don't face the same problems we have in the United States. They wouldn't allow it. You look at the strength of China, and they become our mortal enemy. And it's all their fault that fentanyl is on our shores. It has nothing to do with the fact that we haven't been able to hem up our shores and put criminals in prison and make them stay there. It has nothing to do with the fact that we don't invite the brightest and the best into our country. We allow the dregs of society to come in here and turn this into a cartel country where they can operate with impunity. And when in doubt, the cartel media, the mainstream media, get to pick winners and losers and stand as an interference to those cartels. Where are we at 250 years? We're still a thriving nation. We're on life support in some areas, and in other areas, we're just wounded. But there is hope. There is hope. You know, the first piece of hope is, in the end, it really doesn't matter, because we're going to leave this place and go to a place and be with Jesus. And people will have the opportunity to hopefully repent for the very evil things that they've done. And those that don't, may they be damned to hell. The other side of it is, though, is that what we won't do, God will do. President Trump was not supposed to be elected in 2024, but he was. In 2024, they needed to take those chess pieces off the table. President Trump can only run for 4 more years. And by taking him out of play while still stealing everything around him, Spamberger, the elections up in Pennsylvania, in Texas, Colorado, California, we could see it with our own eyes. They just continued the same thing and just like, we're going to put Trump in there, but we're basically going to take everything else. And as we head into this midterm, I know President Trump is shaking his head and thinking to himself, how do I have a Julius Caesar moment when there are so many Judases and Brutuses around me? He can see it. He's not stupid. And much like this young man, Jeremy Lewin from Ivy League schools, they pick and choose winners and losers based on whether or not the books they've read. The books at Harvard are they're not heavier. They don't have more information in them. It's a fraternity. It's a fraternity of do things the way we want you to do things. Or that's their call letters. I went to Harvard. The American people have been left behind so long ago. But the hope is that President Trump does what is necessary, and I believe he's going to do it. But he's not surrounded by strong men and women. He's not. He's not surrounded by people that care about the American people. They're doing a job. They're infected with the power and the money that comes with being in that position. And President Trump is just not interested in that. But we do have the people. Mark's right. We have the people. We have the ability to stand up and do something. And at 250 years, we have a path. We're at a fork in the road. The American people stand up, and maybe it gets to the place where we have to have force. I pray it doesn't, but I'll be honest. I think it's headed that direction. I was not kidding. I personally believe we know who the targets are. We know. And the American people, in large part, are tired of being beaten by some made-up narrative and dog whistles that don't apply to any of them. While again, they go to the American people and say, we're going to pay reparations. American people are like, with what left? I don't have anything left. You've taken it all from me. I rent my home from you. I pay a tax everywhere I go. There's a camera on me at every intersection. My children are being indoctrinated and groomed. You're destroying the family foundation. We can't seem to stick everything together. What do I have left? But the devil is never happy with a portion of society. He wants to take all of it. But when Jesus was up on the hill and he says, I can give you all this. He's like, no. He wants all of it. And so we have an opportunity to fix it. We have an opportunity to take it back. But it's going to take a lot of people standing up. And unfortunately, people are busy. I'm really busy. You're really busy. We're more busy that you could argue the technology has made it actually worse and more complicated than it was when we didn't have it. It certainly has made it easier for misinformation to lead us down a path that has allowed them to steal the very soul of our nation. If we don't pass the SAVE Act to start, if we don't file an emergency action that looks at what's happening across the world, if we don't rein in the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court is trying to do this thing where they're trying to balance and give both sides an edge in order to create this friction that hopefully holds it together. The fiber of the nation is never held together by friction in the middle. It's just not. But if we don't do something in this, then we will have nothing. And in 5 years, this will be a country that'll be unrecognizable. It'll happen that fast. Here's Schumer, Senator Schumer, being asked about the SAVE Act. I want to play this because man, this is like saying the quiet part out loud. Go ahead and play it.
Leader Schumer, you recently said the Save America Act would stop 25 million people from voting. Why did you not say citizens? Is this an admission that aliens are voting in American elections? Is the housing bill more important than securing elections, Mr. Leader? Thank you.
So I want to be clear. He's in Congress and he doesn't have to answer to anyone. He doesn't have to answer anyone. He doesn't have to answer any questions. They don't have to answer questions. They don't have to be accountable to the American people. At some point, it is going to become very, very clear what the path is. And right now we can see it, but we want to stay away from it. Mark's right about one thing. We have more power than we know. We have to build unlikely alliances. We have to get to a place where we have community. The FBI screws that up because then they come in and try to get people to do crazy things. They did it in January 6th. They did it up in Michigan. They're constantly creating this thing where they have their confidential informants that go into environments and say, hey, listen, I need you to go in there and I need you to create chaos right there. Chaos agent number one would be Jovan Pulitzer. That guy caused more chaos in the election environment and caused more problems that couldn't see past. And there's more. You have Sharona Bishop, another chaos agent, who everything that she touched turned to crap. And there's more. There's more. And as you walk through this pathway and you look at all the things over the last 6 years, we start looking at the culmination that it was never designed for us to get to 250 years. They wanted to cut it short before 250 years. But now we have something to hold on to and something to defend. 250 years of this country's freedoms and the blood that was spilled before us needs to be the one thing that we look at when we defend and protect this great nation. And it is a great nation. Make America great again. It always was a great nation. It accomplished more than any other nation out there that had been around for 700, 800, 900 years. The greatest innovations in the world came from here. The most brave warriors of the world came from here, the United States. The United States has never walked into a war and not had a plan to win. They never walked into a war and said, oh, you know what, we're going to lose, because they haven't lost. And you could argue that Vietnam War, we lost that. We lost it politically. We didn't lose it militarily. The same thing would go with Iraq and Afghanistan. We failed to actually solve the problem because it made too many people fat and happy. It made them wealthy. You start looking at the war machine and how that war machine was funded and how these lobbyists walked around Washington saying, no, we don't want to solve it. And when Joe Biden went in and pulled everything out and created all the chaos and left behind $78 billion of equipment and watched 13 of our service members get blown to bits while having the intel to know that was going to happen, it showed you how insignificant the American people are in the political apparatus or the machine that feeds it and or funds it. And yet we have this thing, but God. So if I leave you with a message on this 4th of July, it'll be this. We are a blessed nation if we allow ourselves to be a blessed nation. When we look at the things where we take them to God and we pray first and we stand up and we speak truth and we act in that truth, if we do the things that are biblically recognized as the blueprint for saving our nation, we will save our nation. And if we fail to do those things and we want to be an armchair quarterback, or we want to create environments where we create chaos and we stand behind candidates, or we stand behind environments that we know either aren't true or we're unsure of, we cause ourselves the consternation that leads to defeat. We have to be very clear. We don't want communism. We don't want socialism. And then we fight against it. But the DSA is not our problem. Our leaders are our problem. And the people above those leaders that are pushing down DEI and pushing down this woke ideology and the Green New Deal and all the other stuff that frankly consumes us as another hole in the boat. We miss the forest through the trees. It's all about creating an ant colony where they can control and do whatever they want to us, whenever they want with us, and they are above the law. It's become very evident that they are above the law. Now we can see it. We can see that they've created an environment where it's them versus us. But the us is not a Democrat or Republican or independent, it's the people. And the same thing can be said about the Democrats, is said about the independents, said about the Republicans or the libertarians. We can feel the pain, but we keep being told that the pain is the other group of people, when in actuality, we should fixate on the thing that has betrayed us for generations. That is leadership. That created the machines and created the mail-in ballot fiasco and the ranked choice voting and took away the voice of the people while saying there's nothing to see here, safest, most secure election in U.S. history, while letting EBITs and betrayers and traitors stand up on national stages and say there's nothing to see it here, President Trump is wrong, even though they know what they're saying is a lie. We have God. We have God. So if we pray to the Lord, we never become the very thing that we're fighting against. Prepare for the fact that we might have to use force. Stand up, speak the truth, and act in that truth. Mark is right. Show up to the board meetings. Show up to the county commissioner meetings. Show up. Create an environment where you are build a brotherhood. And we should be growing that across the country. Problem is we don't trust each other, and we're too busy. And frankly, shit's just not working out in most people's lives. A lot of bad stuff happening in most people's lives. But you got to find time. You got to find time. So let's close it with this. I'm wearing a tie. I wore a tie because, I had to do a couple of shows on different networks. But I said I wouldn't wear a tie. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear a tie. So hell is frozen over. I wore a tie. I wore the very thing that they can hang you by. Now, I will tell you this as well. Maybe you should do something that you don't want to do. And I know that wearing a tie is not wanting to do is kind of a small thing. It's not, though. If you're me, you spent time in places where wearing a tie could be rather dangerous. Maybe it's time that we start doing things that we don't want to do, so that the next generation doesn't have to endure things that we didn't want them to endure. All right. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We are now on Roku. We have an app. Whoo, this is going to be great. And we've got some pretty big announcements coming over the next couple of weeks. Keep in mind that some of it is going to change the way I do the show. But it's also going to add some pretty fun elements to what we're going to do in the future. So let's go ahead and pray it out. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for Mark. Thank you for Tina. I can't help but feel a little bit of just, I feel torn. I feel torn by the path that I see us on and the outcome we're seeking. And I'm walking on this path and I'm just operating in faith that the levers will be pulled at the right moment to do the things that you need to be done. And that walking in blind faith is where I think most people are around the country. And at 250 years, Father, we are grateful for the blessings that you've poured out on this nation. And we recognize that we in large part have not tended to our land. We have not knocked down the weeds. We have allowed evil to just creep into every part of our existence. And Father, I just forgive us. And as we lift our head and we wake up to the realities around us, we now see that restoration is the only way we can get back to a place of decency. And so, Father, I just ask you to give us the pathway, give us the courage, but also give us the patience to walk this path. And give us the courage to be willing to give up whatever is necessary in order to preserve not only this nation today, but this nation in the future. And as we talk about this nation, Father, it'd be hard-pressed not to talk about the other 180 other nations that are out there and the strife that they actually feel from the same group of people that have pushed this globalist environment across the world, this evil agenda across the world. So, Father, I just ask that we can break these chains from these globalists. We can stop the turmoil and the evil that has been gripping not only our society, but societies around the world. Help us, Father, to stand together in that. But Father, we also recognize that we do not want to become the very thing that we're fighting against. And sometimes we are going to have to do things to fight evil. So, Father, I just ask you, give us the wisdom to know when to stand, when to pick up the sword, and when to lay down the sword. I ask these things, Father, and ask for you to guide President Trump and to protect him as he heads into the second half of his tenure as president. I say these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. I'll see you guys later. Be good. Don't be too good.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave